Welcome to the Bad Mom Show, where we flip the script on shame, shed light on what's made you feel invisible, and take your story back. It is time to step into that bold, baddie mom you were created to be. Around here, BAD stands for blessed, already approved of, and divinely designed, because you are not a bad mom. You are a leader. You were chosen for your family on purpose. You are divinely designed and anointed as the heart of your home, and you can confidently own your mantle of leadership as a fiery woman to lead with boldness, not burnout. This is your space to reclaim the parts of your story that have felt like weaknesses and discover they were actually your superpowers all along. It is time to shine as a BAD mom. Are you with me? Let's go. Okay, well, welcome back to the Bad Mom Show. I have such an incredible guest for you today. I'm like giddy because I feel like Bob is, you're like a celebrity in my mind because you're so wise on this topic
If
of
only celebrity
identity.
and
And I'm
if
just,
only celebrity and wisdom were more equated, right?
right? We need more wise wisdom in the celebrity genre. So you get that title. But I'm super excited to share you with the listeners today because Bob has so much wisdom to share. I am going to share his bio, but truly it's been through my personal experience of hearing Bob speak. He spoke actually into the academy, sort of a little mastermind group that I was in. We had a great personal conversation with just a small group of us that day. And then you got to share at Melissa's event a few weeks ago. And every time I have to like go back and re-listen because your message is so rich, but it's the message. Like it's so transformational. I know in my own life, when I started to grasp this concept of our stories and attachment and just the lens that we see the world through versus how God created us and intended for us to experience freedom and life. That was truly when I started, I think, having my own personal breakthroughs. But there's so much to it, and you explain it in such a rich, awesome way. So I'm just so happy to have you here. Thank you for your time today.
Well, thank you, Teresa. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm going to give your official bio, and I'm going to show my age if anybody's watching. Here come the readers. Here they come. But everybody, this is Bob Hamp. I just went into it like, hey, this is Bob because that's how he is. You're such a genuine person. Like when you meet Bob, it's like you already knew each other. Um, so thank you for that too. But let's get to your official bio. Bob is a licensed marriage and family therapist. He's an author, speaker, and a trainer. And his focus is on deep discipleship and freedom, tapping into various disciplines of science as well as scripture. His series, The Foundations of Freedom, has been utilized by churches, organizations, and individuals all around the world to help people think differently about change in their relationship with God. He and his wife, Polly, work with people and organizations, helping them engage change through spiritual and practical means. And truly, you and Polly are just a powerhouse couple, and your work is amazing. So, where to begin, Bob?
Well, I'll begin. How's that?
Okay.
In the bio, you mentioned the foundations of freedom. Wink, wink. Since I sent you the bio, but just 3 weeks ago, we re-recorded the Foundations of Freedom, and they're in the hands of an editor right now.
Oh, awesome.
And I'm pretty excited about that. I don't know how much you've had a chance to really dig into that particular series, but at the core of my work is that body of teaching that I call the Foundations of Freedom, and it's all designed. You said so many kind words about wisdom and things that you gained from me. I think one of the main things that I've been able to do in my life is to be able to think in levels, and I'll say more about that in a minute. But that actually makes people look smarter than they actually are, because most people only think at level one, and there's at least 3 levels of thinking that we should explore if we really want to transform both our own life and the world around us. And so the Foundations of Freedom is a second and third order look at things like the gospel, relationship with God, the truth about change and how the human soul is built and how the human soul changes. And so that series has been something that literally I've both taught and sent video and been translated into a couple different languages in different countries
Wow.
for people to be able to just, it's the shift that changes people. In fact, I would say it this way: learning a new thing doesn't really change people, but learning a new way to think changes everything.
Mm,
And so that's foundational. Everything that I do, let's see, everything that I do, everything that I write starts with the words think differently.
yes,
This is my
that book.
third book, Think Differently, Learn Differently. But Think Differently is about changing thought process. And
Yeah.
it's the difference between changing your mind. I think I'm going to wear brown shoes. No, maybe I'll wear black shoes, versus changing the way that your mind works. And that level 2 and level 3 thinking opens the door for change that most people think is not possible. And it's because they've already decided what's possible and what's not possible at level 1.
Mm. Okay. See what I mean, guys? He is so wise. And don't take notes. I'm going to say that to you too, right? Do not take notes when you listen to Bob because he'll share, I'm sure you're going to share about how our brain works. But this is so good. So, I mean, okay, let's dive into it because at the core, I think at the core of every person, they feel this longing, like something's missing, this desire for something more, but I can't put my finger on it. So we spend our lives trying to be better or change, or like once I reach, speaking about women and motherhood particularly,
Mm,
I shared my story on stage. It was like once I can stop, when I could change my behavior, I could stop yelling at my kids, then I'll be good, and it's this chasing this I don't know, this chasing the wind essentially. But at the core is that desire for wanting to authentically be who we were created to be and to live in freedom, which you teach, but it's hard to grasp because we're so stuck in what you call this level 1 thinking. So can you break down how you even figured out these different levels of thinking and how they operate?
yeah. But I will. And I want to address something that you just said. You may not even realize you said it, but I'm launching this discipleship program in 2026, and one of the first things I want to teach people, I'm really stirred by what seems to be complete um, beginners turning to the kingdom, people who are just now getting curious about Jesus, people who are just now getting curious about what it means to know God and to be known by God. And so I'm doing a discipleship program that will last from January through actually next November, and it's multiple days. But the very first place that I want to start people is what you said a minute ago, and that's this desire.
Mm,
Right? It's like something stirs inside of us. There's the lines from that Morpheus says in the Matrix: you know something, but what you don't know what it is, but it's like a sliver in your mind.
yes.
And the whole point of that, and I'm going to use this to answer your question, but the whole point of that is that there's a way of knowing. That's how we study for school, right? We take notes. This is why I asked you guys not to take notes in that session. We take notes, we memorize things, we take it in, and then we think, if I can put it back on another piece of paper, I know it.
Yeah.
But then there's another way of knowing that's more like kind of that stirring, rising desire, like something inside that I don't know what it is because I don't know it this way. I can't write it down and reproduce it, but I know it because I'm so deeply familiar with it. So this appetite, this desire, this drive, this is the thing that makes people want to know God.
Yes.
Right? This is what it's like when they sense that there's more to their own life than they realize. This is what it's like when something stirs that you can't put into words, but it's bigger. And partly that's why you can't put it into words, because it's bigger than words. So people are attracted to God. People are drawn to know God. People are attracted to like figure out, who am I?
Yeah.
And that attraction is a sensory experience. It's the heart craving the unveiling of reality.
Mm.
Then the mind gets involved and says, so I should figure it out. And as soon as the mind gets involved, it minimizes it down to something less than what it really is. So think about this from the perspective of someone has this desire to know God, and they show up and someone says, oh, well, good, perfect, read the Bible, go to church, by the way, stop smoking, you know, and by the way, don't cuss much. If you can, don't cuss at all, but if you do, do it in private, you know. And they start making it, instead of this kind of drawing of this heart and the connection to aliveness that God's offering, people make it about jumping through hoops and performance and behavior management. And all of a sudden, our desire becomes obligation. And when it becomes obligation, it's hard to follow through on something that's made for desire. It's hard to follow through on it with obligation. And so what's happened is we've changed from knowing in the way that spiritual things and that life is known. We've tried to know it the way that subjects in school are known.
Mm-hmm.
So now to your question, see, there's three levels of thought that I focus on. There's I'm not the origin of this idea, but it's I'm a trained marriage and family therapist, and it's one of the things we talk about is first, second, and third order change. And so first, second, and third order is a way of viewing all of reality. It's a way of viewing change. It's a way of viewing thought. It's a way of viewing scripture. I have a whole teaching that I did on knowing scripture at first, second, and third level. And the idea is that first order thinking is words and ideas. So you come to me and you say, Bob, I really wish that I wouldn't yell at my kids. And I say, okay, stop yelling at your kids. And you go, that's a good idea. Your words are better than my words. I'll try.
Yeah.
And then you walk out and go yell at your kids. And you go, why didn't that work? Why? Bob's so wise and Bob's, an authority on this subject. Why does stop it not work?
Right.
Or why does, well, try this and try this and try this. The idea is that what dictates the things that we think, the words that we speak and the ideas that we carry around that's dictated by level 2 thinking, which is thought process, right? Thought process is I have a way that things come in, and I have a way that my mind processes it, and I have a way that my nervous system absorbs it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I described to you guys at the firebrand thing is, like an optimist, you tell him bad news and he takes it in like, of course it's good news. I just can't see it yet. And his mind processes like, I'll figure out something good about this. So his nervous system actually feels positive about negative news. Same thing happens with a pessimist, but in the opposite direction. You tell them great news, you just won the lottery, but they take that in through the lens of, oh, this is going to be bad somehow. And their mind starts to work on how to make it bad. And their nervous system feels anxiety about the best news they could possibly have. And so the thought process, it doesn't matter what somebody tells you. And I would submit to you, it doesn't matter if your kids are behaving or misbehaving. Right. What matters is the way that your mind operates. It doesn't even matter what you tell yourself. You tell yourself, don't yell, don't get mad, try hard not to get mad. And what you're doing is your nervous system is familiar with one thing, and you're trying with the 5% of your mind that's conscious to overcome the 95% of your nervous system that's unconscious. And it doesn't work because it's an unfair arm wrestling match. Because you've got a thought process that says, this is how I feel like me, and this is how I'm going to bring order in my household. Right?
Yeah. Right.
You and I both know that thought process is flawed.
Yeah.
But if you're only trying to rearrange thoughts underneath that thought process, everything is going to fit under, but this is the way to make life work.
Yes.
This is how I feel like myself. Well, above that, then, every thought process or all thought processes are dictated by level 3 thinking, which is paradigm thinking, right? We all have a picture of reality. Without taking too much of our time, when we're born, the mind starts to organize its sensory experiences. Mm-hmm. And bit by bit, it's trying to take 11 million bits of data every second and make that palatable and comprehensible. And so the mind starts to take that 11 million bits of data and tries to compress it down to what the mind actually can process. And so we do things like we generalize and we categorize and we find ways, for instance, an infant who only knows mom and dad at some point thinks all women are mom, until you start going, oh, that's mom and that's auntie, or what,
Right.
they start to build categories that allows their mind to not be overwhelmed all the time. But the problem with that is they create a picture of the world that's not accurate. And by they, I mean we,
Yeah.
right? We build a picture of the world that's not accurate. And we have to keep in mind that when Jesus said, you can know the truth and the truth will make you free, that the word truth actually better translates reality.
Hey, friend. Thank you so much for being here and following the Bad Mom Show. I would love to hear from you, so let's connect. After the show, send me a DM and let me know what's hitting home for you. What do you struggle with the most as a mom? And what topics would you like to hear more about? This show is all about connection in the community because that is how we truly grow. So reach out to me at the Teresa Todd on Instagram, Facebook, or even TikTok, and I cannot wait to hear from you. Mm.
Right? So if we want freedom, and we think that we can, when we finally get enough right doctrine and we finally get all our information correct, and that will make us free, then we already have a thought process that's flawed.
Yeah.
Because Jesus isn't saying when you have right information that'll make you free. He's saying when you see reality as it is, it'll make you free. But that level 3 thinking has created a roadmap, and that roadmap both shows us what's true, but it also shows us what we will not see.
Yeah.
It functions as a filter so that we only see what that roadmap allows in. So
Yeah.
for instance, I don't know if, I don't know about your household, but certain people don't notice if the toilets need cleaning.
Right.
And it's not because they're bad people, it's just their paradigm filters it out. It's not something their roadmap allows in. Certain people don't see if the kitchen's cluttered. Certain people don't, and on and on. And certain people don't see if someone's sad or happy. Everybody's paradigm, everybody's third order thinking filters out a bunch of stuff. 11 million bits of data down to 126 bits of data. It's filtering out a lot of stuff to create thought processes that then dictate our thoughts.
Mm.
And if my thought is, I'm so mad at my kids today, and I just want to replace that with another thought, I've got these other two levels of thinking that if I don't negotiate those two levels, I have almost no power at all to make an actual change. I
Wow.
might be able to suppress for a while. I might be able to control myself for a while, but like real change, that's level 2 and level 3 stuff.
This
So
is,
that's
whew.
kind of the big picture of what Think Differently is all about. But you apply that to almost every area of our life, and you sound smarter than you are when you learn to examine thought processes and paradigms.
Well, it really does like expand your scope, like you said, I always liken it to like having broken glasses that you're looking at life through and you're trying to see straight, but like your perception is off and you do the best you can, but it's our lives are filtered through these, like you said, these thought highways that are just they're so ingrained in us because we've been collecting data since we were born. And it was, for me in my own journey, it was enlightening when I learned that, hey, before you had language, you had feelings, you were sensory, you were trying to make sense of your world and how you attached to people. Did something feel safe? Was someone safe or were they not? Or am I good? Am I bad? Like I get good attention, I get bad attention, but we're still as adults operating out of that highway because it's so unconscious and it happens so quickly. And it's hard because we're such a society of like behavior modification, right? And I love that you are really drawn to help people new cure. I talk about like Jesus curious. I hope people are on here that are like, I don't know what that guy's about, but I kind of want to know more because I think that there's more to this thing. Like self-help isn't helping me,
Right.
um, and that
Neither
there's
is
more.
behavioral modification Christianity.
Yes, right. Be a good girl, And I loved at the event you were like, Jesus isn't standing there saying, get your act together. And once you get your act together, then, but we live like that. And I mean, just I'll continue speaking of my own personal story that it's so automatic for me to go into performance mode because that's how I survived. That's how I got by. I'm just gonna I gotta take care of myself. I could do this. I'm gonna work harder, and but it's punishing and it's never enough. And you're constantly finding evidence of how you lack. And it's like, I gotta fix it. I gotta fix it. And it's like you said, it's this pressure and then eventually it pops, or it's just such a living in this, like women say, living in survival mode. And they keep going and going and staying busy and it wrapped up in this, I don't even know, confusion, desperate to take a breath, to slow down and say, like, okay, like, this is imagine the freedom to just like be who you are, flawed and all,
And
imperfect and all.
discover that you're not as flawed as you think.
Oh, that too. Come on, see?
Right. So many of what we consider our flaws are really our attempts to hide what we think are our flaws.
This is so good.
Right. So it's the shame that we feel leads us to build this version of ourselves that's not even real. And then we see the flaws in that version of us that's not even real, and we think that's us.
Yes.
But God created us in His image,
Yeah.
and what that means is that we are beings in the image of our Creator. And for a season in our lives, we may have been disconnected from that Creator, but we're not. Which means that we're now not only created in the image of that Creator, but we're connected to Him, which means we, as the book of Colossians would say, we've been made complete. Or as Second Peter would say, we've been given everything that we need for life and godliness. And so it's not us that's the problem. It's the false version of us that we've built to try to make the world accept us, love us, that's been shaped by our experience of family of origin,
Yeah.
all those different things that said this is who you experience yourself to be.
Yes.
But the reality is, the moment you were born again, you were given everything that you need. It's just hidden under years of hiding.
So good. So how, I mean, just- left brain wants a three-step process. How do you help people? I know we didn't even talk about right and left brain, but if you want to go into that, you totally can. But
Sure.
like how, I'm sure people come to you and they're like, how do I change? How do I fix it? But
Yeah.
without behavior modifying fix it plans.
Right. And the first thing you have to know is that everybody's asking and listening at level one.
Yeah.
That's why we're so good at, giving behavior modification plans. That's why we're good at prescribing, things that don't actually work and then trying things that don't, my wife's doing this program that we essentially say diets don't work, and they don't. Diets are telling you to control the outward without giving you any inclination to take a look inward.
Mm.
And so the reason that people gain weight and lose weight and gain weight and lose weight and gain weight and lose weight is because they're trying to manage the physical without ever looking at their emotional, spiritual, and cognitive. And when you do that, when you only deal in 25% of who you are, it's 25 versus 75, and 75 is always going to win.
Yeah.
There are reasons why people end up on unhealthy patterns, whether it be physical or behavioral or relational, and they end up there because of mental, emotional, and spiritual reasons. And so you have to realize, your question, how do people change, or how do you help people change? The first thing they have to understand is that if you're listening at level one and someone's speaking at level two, you're likely to miss what they say.
Mm.
Here's an example. So Nicodemus comes down, he says, Jesus, we know you're from God. And Jesus says, unless a man be born again, you can't even enter the kingdom of heaven. He's speaking at third order, right? He's saying there's a big picture. He's essentially saying to Nicodemus, your paradigm is that the material world needs to be adjusted. My paradigm is that the spiritual world wants to blow like wind into the trees of the material world. And as the spiritual world enters the material world, change will happen. And Nicodemus hears the phrase born again and goes, very level one. He says, can a man enter his mother's womb and be born a second time?
Right.
Or like the disciples, when Jesus says, beware the leaven of the Pharisees, and they're listening at level one, they say, is he mad because we forgot the bread? It's all that level one thinking. So somebody says, again, let's take the process. Somebody says, I'm really angry at my kids, and I don't want to be because they're just kids. And somebody says, well, here's the thing. Let's take a look at how your brain operates and see if there's not some clues for you. Well, that's at least a level two answer But if you're listening at level one, what you're listening for is, but what steps do I take?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
That's everyone's listening for steps. And not that there's not some things to do, but doing steps without understanding the deeper mechanisms doesn't actually work. And that's where people get frustrated. Well,
Mm-hmm.
let's go back to the physical thing, eat less calories, move more, get more cardio, and you'll lose weight. And so people do those things and they may lose weight for 2 weeks, but then they gain for 3.
Yeah.
And because what they're not understanding is why. What does the body need? What does the mind need? What are the emotions? Why have I been eating too much in the first place? And so
Yes.
somebody says, give me 3 ways to stop being angry at my kids. And I'll say, okay, sure. Take 3 deep breaths, do some self-talk, walk away. And all of those things aren't wrong things to do, but none of them are actually the picture.
Yeah.
It's a level 1 answer to a level 3 problem. And so the first thing is people have to, if I'm going to help people change, I'm going to start lifting their understanding to thought process and paradigm as quickly as I can. It's one of the reasons I just make that super overt often at the very outset of anything I talk about is I want you to know, I want you to move with me to second and third order change. Because just trying to arm wrestle against yourself and hoping you win, even if you win, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
It's the difficulty with behavior management is it's like arm wrestling, and you both win and lose simultaneously.
That's good.
And so imagine if level 2 and 3 is it's not an arm wrestling match. It's a little bit more like changing the way that you inhale. It's a little bit more like changing your picture of reality. It's a little bit more like understanding who you are and even knowing how to answer the question who you are. Start thinking in those ways, and the outflow of that will always be different.
Mm.
And so the very first thing I do is I try to interrupt their expectations. Sometimes I do it like we have on this podcast and just start explaining. You're expecting a level 1 answer. Level 1, Einstein famously said, you can't solve a problem at the same level of thinking that caused the problem in the first place.
Mm.
But everybody wants that because in most cases, 98% of the time, people are thinking and listening at level 1. And so they don't even know there is a level 2 and a level 3. Let's take a minute just to talk about the unconscious mind.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be a deep Freudian concept. You just have to understand that your nervous system is thinking for you just as much as the intelligent part of your brain.
Yep.
If you've ever been thirsty and there's a bottle of water next to you and you realize that your hand reached for the bottle without your mind asking it to, or worse, you've got your phone next to you and you're trying to break a habit of being on your phone, and next thing you know, your hand has jumped over there and grabbed the phone without your mind asking it to, you start to realize that your body thinks as much as your mind does.
Yes.
And if we really want to break it down, 95% of your thinking is neurological impulses that come from unconscious thought. 5% of it comes from conscious thought.
That's
So
amazing.
it's a very unfair, arm wrestling match to say your 5% conscious mind is going to beat the 95% that's unconscious. So one of the most important steps then is to start looking at the unconscious with the intent to make the important things more conscious and less unconscious. You described it a couple minutes ago, like looking through broken glasses. I think of it a great deal like looking through colored glasses, right? I
Ooh,
didn't
yeah.
have these with me on purpose, but it's one thing to look through colored glasses all the time and never look at them.
Mm.
If you look through them all the time, you just assume that what you see is what's there. But the minute you take your glasses off, things look different. But then you look at the glasses and you start going, oh,
Yes.
the ways that my sight's distorted is because these glasses are dark. If they were rose colored, I'd recognize everything wasn't actually rose colored. If they were, X-ray glass, whatever it might be, until we take them off and look at them,
Mm.
we think that the world that we see is what's out there. But again, to take a well-known saying, we think we see the world as it is, but we really see the world as we are.
Uh,
So the lenses we look through are my family of origin patterns and the way I've come to see the world because of that, my early life experiences. So for instance, if I have bad early life experiences with authority, I have beliefs about authority that I think are just truth,
Yeah.
but they're actually a truth that came from an early experience where authority caused me some kind of, problem. Same thing's true, by the way, when we start thinking about how am I going to raise my kids? Man, I'm going to read the books and I'm going to study the video series and I'm going to learn all the things. And then we actually have a kid
Yeah.
and we start to lose sleep as
Whole lot of
better
sleep.
parenting. Right. We start to realize we don't have just 8 hours a day with kids. We have 24 hours a day, and it feels like 8 days a week. And next thing you know, you're running on your 95% nervous system. And what that means is
Mm,
that whatever you experience growing up has a very strong likelihood of trying to force its way into your present day experience. Well, I've read all the books. Yeah, but your nervous system, your body is thinking for you, just like reaching for your phone. And so you want to be able to do two things. One, you want to get some information about some new ways to do things, but you also want to have some information about the way that your mind and your body works. And by your body, I mean your nervous system.
yeah.
You had mentioned this concept of being addicted to negative emotions.
Oh my gosh, yes, we have to go there because I feel like so many moms could relate to this. It's the thing I think that keeps a lot of women stuck in shame cycles. Um, and just what you were saying, I mean, it's so powerful when you do start getting curious instead of judgmental about your glasses, like first
Right.
taking them off to see that there is a different vantage point and that yours is not the only one out there. And but then also to not condemn yourself, as you're going through that journey. And like you said, just be curious. Like you're collecting data about yourself. You're learning something about yourself, and it's a higher order of thinking. And I think well, we can talk about this too later after we talk about this, but just like allowing God into the story and like sharing his version with you is so incredibly transformational. But when Bob and I first met, we were on this call, I said something about my own experience. I was like, why is it that, and I know a lot of women can relate to this, but the sense of like, why do I know what to do differently, but I continue to do the thing that I don't want to do. And then get myself stuck in these cycles of shame. And, it's just like rinse and repeat, and you're like, I'm going to try harder tomorrow. And then the same thing happens. And it's like, so what? And your answer was very like eye-opening to me. And I thought, wow, we need to discuss that for sure. Wow. Okay. So that was part one of my interview with Bob Hamp. Is he not incredible? He is such a wealth of information. I had to split our interview up into two parts because I really wanted you to be able to soak this all in. I know you wanted to go take notes. I did too. But as Bob shared, we are right brain people. We absorb information through our right brain. Our left brain wants to be the organizer, to record things. So I hope you resisted the temptation to take notes and just let it soak in. If you need to go back and listen again, please do. I could listen to Bob talk all day. Part two is going to air next Wednesday. You do not want to miss that one. That episode kind of blew my mind. It's all about why we do the things we don't want to do, no matter how hard we try not to do them. So stay tuned and please hit subscribe, leave a review, go check out Bob, and I'll see you next week.